What's up, guys? My name's Chris. I'm here with my...
That's not how we start the podcast ever.
What's up? My name's Chris.
What's up,
No,
y'all?
shut up. Let me do it. Ready?
I am ready.
Hold on. I gotta fix something here. Okay, ready?
Yep.
What's up, y'all? My name's Chris. I'm here with my ex-teammate, Max Rolnick.
Current co-host.
Current co-host. And welcome back to Shipped Across the Border. How do you want to do this?
Fucking.
There's going to be an intro here, so we can just cut to my thing.
So basically, we've been beating around the bush.
Pause.
Not pause.
Definitely pause.
Kind of pause. For the last little bit. But yeah. So.
It's just like what those talks.
It's not my story to
no,
tell.
I know it's not. But like those. You know when you're in a relationship and like you have to have the talk, but no one wants to admit that the talk has to happen. That's what this is, guys. I am no longer a college basketball player.
Oh, it's like for like speaking better and shit?
No.
So why'd you say for the podcast?
Bacon's not real, and neither are
No,
narwhals.
bacon's not real. Because if you go to a grocery store, there's too much bacon.
Keep working, your time will come.
It sounds like you're eating human bones.
It's a mini.
It sounds like you're eating hamster bones.
It's it might be stupid, but is India in the Middle East? I don't think so. Is it? Boo.
How?
Why are you no longer a college basketball player?
Well, okay. So the season ended, and Coach Hack had us. We had the end of the year meetings, which, as Ian stated in the previous podcast, can either go really well or really bad. And in my meeting, he made us write a little mini essay about how we thought the season went and goals for next year and all that stuff. And I sat down, wrote that, finished it, and he liked my answers because I did actually spend a lot of time like thinking through that kind of stuff. And we sat down, and he said that he wanted me to take a week to decide if this is really what I want, because he could tell that I was focused in many other areas, Exhibit A, weight room, and among other things. And I went home to Canada, and I partied a little bit. I lifted some weights, and I sat long and hard and thought about it. And I was like, I thought about the end goal and what I would be getting out of 4 years if I spent the next 4 years at pursuing this basketball thing that I've been doing for 7 years. And I just didn't see myself enjoying that end goal as much as I could if I pursued other things. Like if I took that 4 years and instead spent that working on the podcast, lifting weights, doing other things, I just thought I would be better off mentally. Like I just thought I'd be happier. So I came back, walked into Coach Hack's office because he said he wanted a week. So I waited a week, came back, and I walked into his office and said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to come back. And he was okay with that. He said, I respect your decision. And we went our separate ways.
At what moment did you realize? Because we both know that like Coach Hack just didn't spring that on you, and you're like, oh hey, maybe I should just reevaluate. Mm-hmm. Like that was a thought in your mind since pretty early on in the season when you kind of realized what college basketball was about and how you were very unprepared.
No, the first time it hit me was like, so I actually haven't said this out loud to anyone else, but I was in the library and I went to, so there was Rari, you, and Dante. And it might have even been Avery, and you guys were
Did
all...
somebody get kicked out of practice?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, we kicked out of practice, and the next day in the library, Avery, Rari, and you and Tay were in the library, and I walked up, and I was like, bro, I think I'm going to quit. This was like December, and Rari's like, I will never talk to you again if you do that. Like, you can't quit on me right now. I'm like, but I didn't see a point in me being there. And then that was right before Christmas break, which is when things did take a turn for the better, where I actually started playing up to my potential. And not getting screamed at every other practice and messing up pretty much every drill. So it was worth it sticking it out, but Rari and Tay definitely talked me off the ledge because I was contemplating it back in December. Like,
they were the ones who like told you to quit.
No, they told me not to. They were like they talked me back off the ledge.
Oh,
like,
so then you're like, oh, maybe I'll stick around for a little bit.
which is definitely a better decision because I would have just quit in the middle of the season. It would have cut a lot of ties.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that because we got kicked out of practice for promoting the podcast in the group chat.
A day after the loss.
No, it was the day of a loss.
A loss to the town rival.
I wouldn't say. Yeah, I guess they were like neighboring.
Yeah, and they killed us.
Yeah, bad decision, bad timing. We kind of weren't really thinking. We kind of just figured out how to like. This is the first visual episode we had, and we were trying to figure out the way
Max?
to like. Yeah, no, yeah, it was Max. We were trying to figure out a way to like connect the audio and the visual and put it all together. And it was an early game, and so we had some time after the game, like before it was too late, and we kind of figured it out. And we kind of just like pushed to get it out because we hadn't put out content in like 2 weeks, and everyone was asking us like everyone's asking us like when's the podcast coming out? And it's like, hey, we just got it out as soon as possible. It kind of just like slipped our mind.
And the vibes after the game weren't like a.
It was more just like a reconstructing. What are we doing wrong? It wasn't like a.
You guys suck.
You guys are all pussies. But no, 100% it was a wrong timing, and it wasn't like a we don't care about the loss thing because it definitely irked us, and still like all the losses like you don't like necessarily like recover from that. It's just like every loss like hurts, but it was just
you don't have time to really process it because you got practice the next day, so it's like you shit we lost, and then you're working.
You got to like change your focus quickly, but it was just a very poor timing, poor thought went into it. Terrible judgment call. Not really a lot of thinking went into the call. And
college freshman, baby.
So, but after that, like, was that kind of when you, not say it's to that, but like that time period?
Had I made my mind up at that
point?
No.
But like that's when it started. You thinking about it?
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of shit going on mentally where I was like, so from the moment I picked up a basketball at age 13, 14. Like watching a Kyrie Irving mixtape, I was like, I dropped hockey. So for the first 13 years of my life, I'd been playing hockey and soccer. And I had to make the flip to basketball, which was like, at the time was crazy as fuck. Like I had to go up to my parents and be like, I don't want to play hockey. And like obviously now it doesn't mean anything, but it was super stressful at the time. But I dropped hockey, started playing basketball. And literally every single one of my friends was like, you're going to be terrible. You're dog. I wouldn't do that. Like stick to hockey, whatever. Like don't do this. I was like, fuck all of you. And then one girl actually.
Shout out.
Logan Ward. She's my cousin, like distant cousin. And she was like, I think you could be really good. That's literally like one person told me that I could do it. And I just ran with it. I started training fucking twice a day, watching Kyrie Irving on a 9'2" net, like just going insane by myself. And then I made the high school team, and then I made the Scarborough team. But from the moment I picked up a basketball, my goal was always to play on a college basketball team. I can go in my notes right now. I showed I think I showed you guys this the other day, where I had there was a bunch of long-term goals, like average 30 in high school, dunk, gain 15 pounds of muscle, and blah, 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 blah. And the end one was like, if you do all of this, the chances that you achieve this are really, really high. And the last one was play college basketball. And then I did that, and I was kind of just left standing there like, now what? Like I did the thing that the 12, 13-year-old me was dying. Like he just needed to do that. And then I did it, and it was like,
you don't feel like
shit. Now what?
Like you don't. I mean, now what? Like for me at least, like my goal was always to play college basketball, but I don't want to sit 4 years. Like I want to be a contributing player to the team and contribute to wins on the court as well. You don't feel like you never like that's not in your
There's
goal?
a little drive for that because even now, like as I'm watching you guys hoop, like I do want to be out there still. That's still in me, obviously, to hoop and stuff. But I have to keep reminding myself because we talked about this, where like in the development games, where I kept asking people because like before I 100% made my decision, I didn't want to be like premature and regret it. But I kept asking people how they were feeling in the game and how during practice, I kept asking people how they felt and all this stuff. And I had to weigh the regret of staying 4 years and not pursuing something else, and the regret of quitting and not being able to actualize my potential. And I kept asking like you, Zai, Joe. I was like, when you guys are on the bench, like what is going through your head? And you kept telling me like you want to get back on the court, you need to get out
Of
there.
that development game?
Like, any game, you want to be on the court. Like you hate sitting on the bench. Like you don't want to. Like you just want to be out there 48 minutes. You want to play the whole game. I started that game, and I played half decent. And then I sat, and it was like I don't have to be out there anymore. And I was like, I was kind of dreading getting back on the court. And when I saw that in myself, I was like, I just don't think.
Do you think it was like anxiety, or like what do you think it was?
But it was also like I just had no more. There was not enough drive going, like not enough mental. There wasn't a carrot on a stick where I was like, because before going to Toronto, driving 4 hours, playing in my first AAU game ever, which I was shitting myself when that happened because I'd never done that. Traveling into America for the first time, getting my passport, playing in Ohio, like just doing all this shit that I'd never done before, traveling this untraversed territory. I had a reason to do that, which the end goal was always college basketball. But then once I accomplished that, there was nothing there for me to pull on anymore. So when shit hit the fan, it was just like, I don't really want to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Also, like, I feel like you were very driven, and it's good to have like multiple areas of interest. And I feel like those areas of interest kind of like
They just took over.
Kind of just, like, especially like throughout this year, weightlifting, editing the podcast, like those are where you see like your future.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you would want to be successful in that more than you want to be successful in basketball.
That's kind of where I'm at. It's like the weight room aspect was like the nail in the coffin. Like once I found that, I picked that up and I gained 15 pounds, 20 pounds in a month and whatever. I was like, dude, I could really do this instead. And then it just shit fell to the wayside.
Did you feel like, because obviously, like, I mean, we talked about it, but like the season, especially the beginning part, caused you a little bit of anxiety, just like going to practice and like the high stressful situations and like the fluctuations between like the wins and losses and stuff like that. Did you find like that was also like a relief when you quit from like that anxiety and from that?
It is and it isn't, because like I hate being the guy who runs away from
We'll talk about that in a minute.
What?
Like, continue what you're saying.
I hate being the guy who runs away from uncomfortable situations just because
It's
the easy
uncomfortable.
road's there, like it's an option. So like knowing that the reason practices were so stressful was because that's how winning programs structure practices was something that was in the back of my mind the whole time. And like
Just like you have to make practice more competitive and more
like I would rather
difficult in the game.
I
so
would
the games are
rather
easy.
I'll word it like this. I would rather practices be super stressful, knowing that everyone's competing, going 100%, and that everyone's fighting for minutes, and we're all trying to win. Than be on a lackadaisical program where everyone's just shooting
around.
the shit and no one gives a fuck about winning.
Of course, for sure.
So like I think Ian said it on his podcast where he was debating, like he was calling his dad and asking him like, do I suck and all this stuff. And then he was like, I think you're just in a bad situation. And he hung up and he's like, fuck a bad situation. We're 10th in the nation. We're winning. That's kind of how I felt about it. It was like, it was more of a, like I could definitely see the potential in the situation. I don't want to waste this situation and opportunity I've been given, but I also don't think that I would be happy in 4 years if I stuck it out
Like you'd be happier if you put more energy
into something else.
into other. I mean, it's fair. It's definitely fair. I understand what you mean by like completing the goal and like now what? Because like let's just say whatever. Say it's like a game and like whatever you level up, and now there's this daunting task of like, okay, now I'm here, but now I want to, like, if I want to get playing time, if I want to be a on-court role type of player, that's going to take infinitely more, and it's a compound of
It's a new mountain.
It's a new mountain to climb, and is that mountain worth it compared to the other goals that you have in other areas? And for me personally, yes, and for other people, yes, but for other people, it's not. And it's just you got to do what makes you happy. And what I was getting at before is like the quitting thing. It's like people always like frown on like people who quit and people who take the easy way out. But like, and we were talking about this before when you're thinking about it, it's just like, is it really taking the easy way out when it's more of a pivot from one difficult task to the other. It's not like you're just quitting and then you're sitting on your fucking bed in your underwear watching Netflix all day and eating chips and doing nothing. You're kind of pivoting and using that passion that you once had for basketball, and definitely still do because it's still a basketball-related passion. But you're just taking that energy and pivoting into something which you're also going to work equally as hard on and stuff like that.
I watched a podcast on this where someone was talking about, it was either Elon Musk or somebody, where it's like people will spend 10 years of their life climbing one mountain, get 2/3 of the way up and see the peak, but realize that in order to get to the peak, they have to climb all the way back down and find a new way up. That's kind of how I see.
That's a good analogy.
It's like I climbed 2/3 of the way up, got to the college basketball part, and then I could see the peak, and I'm like, I could go to that one, or I could go over there, climb down, and then just start a new path. And I think that would end up. I'm not
up higher.
I'm not scared of climbing back down. Is what I'm saying. It's like I'm okay with what I've done. Like my goal was always like to be able to tell my kids like I played college basketball. I was the only kid. I'm fairly certain, unless you count like transfers, but I was the only kid in my high school to play college basketball, or one of two. So like I'm fine with that. I did something somewhat significant with my basketball career, and I'm okay with
100% significant. The amount of kids I would even like dream to be in the position that you were in is a lot of people,
and I'm okay with that. So
yeah, I mean, no, I kind of like that. That was a good analogy of just like
climbing the mountain.
Yeah, just like is it worth putting? Because let's just say in a game, let's say a video game, like it takes a certain amount of XP points to get to level 1, level 2, and as you get up, level 50 takes the same amount of XP points that it took to get from level 1 to level 49 type thing. And some people are willing to keep doing that because they love it, and some people want to like drop it and find a new passion.
That was another thing too, is like in the first part of the year, I was grinding like really hard at basketball.
Yeah.
Like I was going still really
you
hard.
were running Delaware by yourself.
I still had that passion, and then the first day of practice hit, and it was like, oh, this shit is different. And I kept maintaining that work ethic. But slowly, like you can't lie to yourself for that long. You're like, you're just not loving the process anymore, and that's when it hits you really hard. Is like, I'm not loving grinding by myself anymore, and that's why the weight room was such a huge pivot, because like I was looking for something else to pick up to just grind by myself, and then I found the weight room, and then I found this, and I found that, and all of those things took the place of basketball. So it was like my emotions were tied more to those things than they were basketball at that point.
And by the way, Chris is not like walking away from everything. Like he's still gonna be around. He's still at every open gym, at all the team lifts, just like giving, because he's also the fucking weight room demon now. So he's just like giving all the guys advice on form, on technique, on different exercises. And then he's also, you talk about you're gonna take over the social media potentially.
Possibly. I mean, Coach Hack, during one of our meetings, he saw how passionate I was about pursuing this kind of social media stuff and posting podcasts and all of that. And he said that if I wanted to, I could run the Medaille men's basketball Instagram account and social media page and stuff like that, and I would be 100% down for that in the near future. So, I mean, I'm still going to be around college basketball.
Still going to be doing the podcast, still going to be interviewing our teammates.
Yeah.
Because there's still a lot of basketball knowledge that's went into the making of a college basketball
training
athlete.
2 kids in the summer, trying to get them to go to college basketball. So, I mean.
Yeah, and then what have you been doing to like fill, because obviously like it's a big gap of time that you have now opened up. So what have you been doing to fill that?
There's a little bit of Netflix, like you said. I won't lie. There's a few shows that had to be watched. Stranger Things. If you haven't watched it, pick it up. But outside of that, just going ballistic on the podcast. I'm not even gonna lie. Like probably.
Well, okay. Talk about what you want to do. Like your goal of like a career.
There's so many pivots. It's just like right now. I've watched a lot of, if anyone other is watching this and knows who Alex Hormozy is, he's the entrepreneur, and I watched so many of his podcasts, and he's just sort of drilled into my head this idea that in your 20s, if you just focus on building skills that'll allow you to be profitable in your late 20s, early 30s, then you could be financially free by the time you're in your mid 30s if you spend your 20s doing that. So right now, I'm literally just trying to build I don't want to say profitable skills like video editing, content creation, marketing.
And you're passionate about
social
it.
media stuff. I'm enjoying the process immensely of like putting together a video, putting hashtags together, all that stuff, and then sending it out and just doing that day after day and seeing how it reacts with the algorithm and whatever. And it's been going pretty well as of late because we're just dumping content everywhere. And
I mean, it's not me. Like, I mean, we produce the content here, but you're the one who in the behind the scenes in Huber 216 for 6 hours a day, fucking on that computer.
That's the thing, like
editing and putting shit together and rewatching the podcast hundreds of times and cutting out clips to put on. And
apparently not censoring enough because we've missed a few, according to Brad Matsugu.
Shit, we definitely probably have. But I mean, that's all. And like I could see like the passion in your eyes, and you wake me up at 8 a.m. and be like, yo, like check the TikTok account. Like we just had at one point it was like 40,000. We woke up like that was awesome, and then we ended up having 200.
Now 400.
Now 400, and it's just like I can see the passion in your eyes.
It just builds. It's the same thing. Like when you start playing basketball and you can't make a left-hand layup, and then you start practicing a left-hand layup, and then you start adding all these things together, and then you get into a game and you hit him with a 3-piece combo and lay him. It's like you see your hard work start to come together, and it's the same thing with the podcast where like you put out content constantly, and just try to alter it a little bit and shave off the edges and then put out more and more and more, and then eventually one of them hits, you're like, holy shit, like that. Everyone thinks that it was just a one-hit wonder, but they don't realize that 6 months before that you were just putting out content every single day,
3 times a day,
and then finally that one hit. It was like just if that one finally went above the surface, but all the other ones were built where all the other ones led up to that one just finally breaking the surface, and that was all of your hard work coming to fruition.
So yeah, moral of the story, we're making a GoFundMe link so that Chris can be a full-time content creator. No, for real. Moral of the story is just, I mean, perseverance is a big thing, and you shouldn't run away from being uncomfortable, because being uncomfortable is how you grow. And I think that you've learned a lot of life lessons.
There's one lesson that I've learned from this, just picking up basketball at a later age and not being as athletically gifted as a lot of kids, is like just find something you're passionate about and grind away at that every single day until you see some kind of results. And if you end up, like for me with basketball, if you end up on a college basketball team and you actually achieve that goal, and then you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I don't really want this anymore, take all of the skills that you've built, turning yourself into that kind of person, and then just find something else that you're passionate about. Because I definitely don't think these 7 years of my life were a waste.
For 100% not.
The person that I've become and the things that I've learned throughout my 7 years
and
of
the connections
basketball,
that you build,
and the connections that I built are invaluable.
and the friends you made along the way.
Are invaluable, and now I can just use all of those things and start something else.
Yeah, so
just find something you're passionate about, and I hate that though. Also, like people say passion, but just find something you're willing to put up with for 8 hours a day and see no results for 6 months to a year, and just go crazy.
Like, it's important to perseverance, and like I just want to repeat what I said before. It's like don't run, but I don't think like you didn't run because you waited. You stuck out the entire season, although it was uncomfortable. And then when it was a time to reevaluate, you decided to move on. And again, like if you're gonna like stop something, you have to pick something else up. Like, you can't just be a bump. So like if you have something in your life that you're thinking about quitting, apart from like fucking drugs or anything like that, because definitely get rid of that shit. But I'm saying like if you have something that you're thinking of stepping away from, it's just like don't leave because it's uncomfortable. But if you're starting to lose passion for it and you have something else you want to divert the energy into, then maybe think about choosing a different pathway.
Yeah, here's the reason why I hate the word passion. This is because like even if I'm super passionate about something, there's gonna be days where it sucks.
Passion's like motivational too.
Exactly, and that comes and goes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. Is like
it's the consistency.
Out of the 7 years, I heard another podcast about this where this girl was talking. There's this Olympic girl, and she was talking to her strength coach or something, and she felt like shit that day. She had a terrible lift or whatever, and her coach came up to her and she said, "It's fine. It's the rule of thirds. A third of the time you're supposed to feel great. A third of the time you're supposed to feel okay." And a third of the time you're supposed to feel shitty when you're pursuing a dream. So it's okay that in 2 days from now you're going to feel fine, and then you're going to feel great. Like a third of the time you're going to feel like shit. So the passion is going to come and go. The motivation is going to come and go. But if the end goal is something you genuinely want, you'll stick it through for however long it takes.
It's the consistency. It's the dedication. It's the fucking perseverance.
It's the why.
It's the why. And that's gonna like get you through. Cause yeah, passion's like motivation. It's just like, okay, you're motivated for the first week that you work out, and then after that you're sore and you're tired. And what keeps you going? Because you don't have any more motivation. It's the why. It's the goal that you want to achieve. That's why you keep putting yourself through the shit. But yeah, find something. This is a quote that I have on one backwards on my phone. It's find what you love and let it kill you.
Find what you love and let it kill you.
Find what you love and let it kill you. And that's it for episode fucking whatever the fuck this is.
This is just a random.
Thank you guys for listening. And Chris is fucking
quit.
That's his new name. Chris is no longer a college basketball player, but the podcast must go on.
And I can still bust all of you. Pause.